Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Good Times Hour. We're going to start off a little differently today because we have a few announcements to make. Um, our first episode is live on Spotify, and it's the Carlton Howard episode from a couple weeks ago. So you can go and check that out now on Spotify. We'll have it up on Apple Music by sometime tomorrow, but that's a big milestone for us. We're finally making the move into the other format. So that is big news. The other news is we will, with starting with the Allen Beaver, we will be on a different format as well, and we'll be available in a couple different ways. And I will notify you via email or on my Facebook as to where we're going with that. But YouTube will still be one, and Facebook Live will still be another format that it broadcasts on. But it's we're switching formats. We've been talking about it for a while, and we're finally getting to make that move. And I also want to make an announcement. If you're in the local area, in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, we're going to have a Good Times gathering next week on on Saturday at 11 o'clock at Gateway. We're going to meet at the pavilion. We'll have more details available on maceman.com tomorrow. We will also have more details about all of this Good Times Hour stuff on our page on maceman.com. If you want to email us about anything that is Good Times related, you can send an email to goodtimes@maceman.com. I think that covers it for right now. We're also going to have an event here locally at Weatherford on April 27th. Weatherford Disc Golf. It'll be a 2-day beach here event, Weatherford Disc Golf Course. So, anyways, without further ado, Paul, I think you have a few things to tell everyone about our guest.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls around the world, please welcome to the tee our next very special guest. She's the Frisbee master and flying disc ambassador, the one who ranged to and fro across the land, making strange, not so loud as she dazzled the crowds, in whole and in part with her zest for life and her supersized heart. It was at St. Lou where her world grew, including big changes in her arrangements, when she met her sweet peach country cowboy who was part Easy Rider, or one of those things, and part Aragorn the Strider from Lord of the Rings. Together they forged a true bond, spreading the joy, selling discs and trinkets and cool toys. On Euclid between Coldquid and Moreland rose the IFO store for the world to know where to acquire the real drip to get a grip on all things counterculture. Full flight fun with midlight fires and deadhead tie-dyers, in full sight of the many joints on display in the little 5 points. Her three favorite things are chicken pot and pie as her favorite band sings while wearing tie-dye. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise and salute your true Frisbee Queen of the South from Atlanta, Patti Kunkle. Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for being.
All right, this is gonna be a fun show. So let's not even waste a single second, Mace. Let's jump right into it.
All right, folks. If you don't know it yet, you're about to get in on some laughs with us and Patti Kunkle. Her PDGA number is number 283, and she's from Atlanta, Georgia. So, Patti, tell us your PDGA story, because everybody pretty much has one. What prompted you to get your PDGA story? Do you remember what event you were at when you did that, or did you mail what?
Oh, wait, did you say why did we start our store?
No. PDGA number.
Oh, that I played in the first tournament in the country. And
Okay.
Ed Hedrick had his son there signing us up to be members of the PDGA. And so that was the number I got, 283. And the most fun about having that number is John and I would go to tournaments and John would sign us up, and then he'd turn around and yell at me, "Hey, Patti, I forget your number again. What is it?" And so I'd yell back, 283, and every guy in there would turn around and go, "What?" Because they were jealous.
Well, when you look at the PDGA list, Wayne Walters, who you might know from University of Northern Alabama, he's 282, and KB Clark is 284. So were they in the lineup with you or were they at the same event?
Wait, Wayne Walters was 282?
Yeah.
He was one of my old boyfriends. Oh, and he hooked up with Tom, helping Tom out.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah. And which Clark brother?
KB.
KB. We did have that conversation.
Okay.
You guys must have been having that conversation when you were waiting in line to get your PDGA number. So
Clark brothers,
Jim
they were so
Kenner-
funny.
Jim Kenner's only nine behind you with the 292 as well.
I feel like I'm in an honored group of people.
That is a good group
Well,
of people.
without a doubt. The other one he didn't mention was Dan Mangoni, who has 275. So what about your IFA number? Do you remember what your IFA number was?
No.
Everybody has that look. Like nobody knows. Like everybody spits out their PDGA number, but we've been asking a bunch of y'all that have these IFA numbers, and you're like, well, was I supposed to remember that?
What's an IFA number?
Were you part of the International Frisbee Association?
Oh, I don't think I don't think I was.
Oh, okay.
I think that happened and I didn't get the literature or something. I just saw it was happening and I didn't jump on it.
Okay.
Right on.
But that's funny. Yeah, I forgot about that.
So here's a few things. Here's some really nice honors that you've been given over the years. In 1987, you were given the Jimmy Olsen Senior Award as Senior Golfer of the Year, and John David won the first version of that in 1984. So I imagine you guys have those both on the same shelf somewhere.
Yeah, something like that.
So in 91, you were awarded the Bob West Memorial Sportsmanship Award, and you were the first woman honored with that award.
Yes, I was. And it was quite an honor.
Nice.
And then in 96, you were inducted into the PDGA Hall of Fame with Mike Conger and Rick Rothstein, which that's a pretty that's a pretty diverse group right there, I guess is
That's
the
a
best
good
way of
heavy
putting
group. Yeah.
it. Definitely heavy hitters. And then in 09, you were honored with the Sportswoman Award,
Honored
which obviously is nice as well. You played in the very first PDGA event. You were a member of the first PDGA board of directors. Thank you for that.
Oh, yes, yes, I was, wasn't I?
By the way, this is your life, Patty.
Oh, yeah. Work it, brother, work it.
I got a couple more entries here. In 1988, you were 1988 Masters Women's PDGA World Champion. You were the first woman to win Masters at the World Championships. Master Woman Player of the Decade, not just the year, but the decade in the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
And then in 97, which is probably the first time I saw you laughing uncontrollably, was you won the Grand Masters Women PDGA World Championship there in Charlotte. And your knight in shining armor happened to be the tournament director of that event as well.
Yes.
So that's certainly the first time I ever became aware of y'all, and a lot of other people. Like in 97 was my first adventure to the Charlotte part of the East Coast disc golf, but obviously it was in Charlotte. So yeah, I went out there and I was like, oh my God, where do I learn how to play golf like that? Because
that was such a good era. Yeah.
That was good times without a doubt, and different things. Like I talked to Beeve the other day and he mentioned the scoreboards, and I'm not even going to go into it, but like that was just one of the things that I remember. I mean, like I remember seeing those scoreboards that they set up, which eventually I think had to have been some sort of an inspiration for those score ports, that we're going to talk about here in a little bit as well. But
yes,
any of that stand out more than any of the rest of it? I mean, that's a pretty good opening framework.
Well, I was definitely on a high while all that was going on. I was a PE major in college and I loved sports, beyond belief. I just loved sports. And when I graduated from college, there wasn't a sport for me to do because they didn't have, oh, and even like when I played basketball, they made women stop at the halfway line. So you play guard or forward, but you couldn't play the whole court because they said that might be too hard on the woman.
You know, I vaguely remember that. I think that my mom even mentioned it recently when I was home visiting, and she said something about that too. And I totally had forgotten that that was the case. But, you know, I don't know if you caught any of the women's Final Four or even any of the women's tournament this year, but that women's game is not the same game. You know, there's not anybody that's worried about those women working too hard running the full court because
I
that game is
know.
so great and so entertaining. And
Well,
and I think that ladies disc golf and ladies soccer, all three of them, you could put in the same category. That those three games have come a long, long way since the '80s.
True. Yeah. And since I've been such a sports freak myself, I'm real aware of, just like that, watching the last women's basketball tournament, and that woman is so good.
Caitlin Clark.
Yep.
Yeah, she's amazing.
You've already touched on it being a PE teacher. We'll start a little bit before that. You were born in St. Louis and your family moved around a lot.
Yes.
Mace had a conversation with you and he said that you picked cotton for money for a while as a child.
Oh, when I was in the Girl Scouts in the South, that was one of the things. We're all going to go to the field and pick cotton now, and whoever gets the most gets a prize or something. And I sure did not win that.
Yeah, dude, they had her and her siblings out sharecropping for them and stuff.
So when did the Frisbee enter your consciousness, your own personal horizon?
With Tom.
Okay, so when you go to university in the University of Northern Alabama at Florence, right?
Yes.
And you're taking PE there. You're learning to become a physics teacher.
Yeah.
And how do you meet Tom?
Around.
Okay. So he's the cool guy carrying the Frisbee.
Yeah, well, no, he wasn't even carrying a Frisbee then. This was before he got into Frisbee.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I met Tom at the end of our college careers, because we graduated at the same time, was when he got into Frisbee. The first few years he was not into Frisbee, but he was a baseball player, I believe, and so he was still a sports person. Fast. He was so fast.
You must have graduated right around 69, 68. Was that?
69 it is.
69. That's the summer of love, or another summer of love there.
Oh yeah, times were good.
So did you stay in Florence or did you move from there to Atlanta?
I was in Florence for about a year or two, and then I got out of Florence and went to Atlanta, where I just heard so many good stories about stuff happening there, and I had friends that said, come stay with us. And so I had a place to live, and I went, and it was total fun.
Okay. Atlanta in the early 70s sounds like a fun place to be for sure. And while you're there, Tom comes by. What is this? Is this 73, 74? Do you remember the year?
I'd say this is earlier, 72 or 3.
Okay. And he knows you're living there. So he's like, I'm going to go see my friend Patty. I'm in town.
Yeah, well, he was tired. His butt hurt. I've been on a motorcycle for hours. So he said, I just need a break. Come on, I'll help you.
And was that when he showed you how to throw some Frisbee?
Yeah.
Okay. So by that time, he was into it. And we'll get to the Tom Monroe story, but just
he'd gotten the job with Nova, and I'm getting to go around and tell people how to play Frisbee. I can't believe it.
But he's doing it on a motorcycle?
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. Oh yeah, Wham-O gave him a car.
Okay.
But not until later.
Okay.
Yeah.
So his first gig was schlepping around on a motorbike.
Yes.
And so he comes into town, and he took you outside and he showed you how to throw to do 3 throws.
Yeah.
Do you recall what he taught you?
Forehand, backhand, and an overhand wrist flip.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that got you hooked right away, did it?
Totally.
Okay. Because
I did it good. So that was good. So yeah. So that's when I decided I had to move back to Huntsville so I could work with Tom's team.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
let's just jump right into Tom.
Were you
What?
originally from Huntsville?
Oh, Tom was still in Huntsville. Yeah.
No, she wasn't originally from Huntsville. You'd never lived there before, had you?
What, Huntsville? Yeah, I lived in Huntsville.
But prior to moving there to learn with Tom?
Um, I'm not sure of the timing of anything right at the moment.
Okay.
That's all right.
That's
That's
all
all
right.
right.
So let's just jump into Tom stories. Nice.
Well, he
That's
was
a good
always
idea.
funny. We went to many Grateful Dead shows together.
Did you?
Oh
Wow.
yeah, he loved them.
Well, so one of the things you already mentioned was talking about, oh, well, like the summer, oh, did he spend the summer with you working in Atlanta to earn money and then he went back to Florence?
No,
That was something you told me or no?
no, I did not.
No, this is I pulled from his website.
Oh, all right. So, anyways, one of the things this for us is a good opportunity to talk to Tom, who we didn't get to talk to. Talk about Tom with someone who spent a lot of time with him, and that was something that you and I talked the other day, and we spent a lot of time talking about your friendship with Tom, and so where did you meet him at first? I mean, I know you met him at University of Florida, but or University, excuse
Northern
me,
Alabama.
Northern Alabama in Florence. But would you have a class with him or something? I mean, do you remember how you guys
I
first
do
met?
not remember how I met Tom Monroe. It was just like one of those gatherings of people, and we were all sort of on the same wavelength. And there was a party. I don't really. That's kind of a sad thing, but I can't remember how I met Tom. He was just there, and I was just there.
And then from then on, the same thing is true.
We were
Huh?
just good friends immediately because we both were talkers.
There you go. Okay. I had noticed that about you.
Oh,
So, so the one of the things that I was thinking about when you were talking early with Paul, I think that it's obvious to me that you were one of as if Tom's been described as the Johnny Appleseed of disc golf in the Southeast, and obviously you're one of his Frisbee trees.
yes, ma'am. I was totally into it. I was so happy. I needed a sport. I wanted a sport, and that was just such a delight. And the best part I can remember about that whole era is we'd go to a Frisbee tournament, we'd see some friends that we really loved, and we were all ready to play around at disc golf. And every now and then something would happen, we'd just go, "Can you believe we were really thrilled. We were inventing a sport." And every time something would happen, we just be so happy about it because we were the inventors of it.
It's amazing. It's really funny too because so many people have had that feeling in that era as well, and it really didn't even have to be limited to the 60s or the 70s because when we were kids in the 80s, we felt the same way too. Like
Yeah.
yeah, we're running around the neighborhood with the master Frisbee. Herbie came up with this, the kid down the street. And we were picking objects and like when I moved down here in Texas is where I discovered formal disc golf. And I felt the same way. Like, although I think obviously for you it was far more true. For me, it was just one of those things like, oh yeah, here's another dude that thinks that they invented disc golf. After the beveled edge disc had already probably been invented and we just didn't know about it yet,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the things that's really cool, and I was involved with some things when I was a kid that weren't this exactly, but like they'd had a couple kite fly-ins that were very similar to this that were promoted by a local radio station that my dad built kites for. But it's really fascinating to hear that Wham-O was doing things in conjunction with the with radio stations across the country and having these great Frisbee fly-ins. And like I grew up loving the radio. It was like the only way that I got some of the music. Like my dad really tried to protect me from all of this evil in the music business, and
Oh yeah.
listening to everything And like that was the way I found music, and that was my escape to find new music and to find the rock and roll and the things that I wanted to listen to. But that I really, those kind of things, they don't happen anymore. Those type of events that used to be sponsored by a local radio station, you know, that kind of thing went away with the radio station. And so that's really fascinating to hear these stories, you know, like Tita told us about riding around in the car when she was 15 years old and hearing about the events at the Rose Bowl. And I mean, just imagine how that
Oh,
would affect you as a
imagine.
teenager.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
yes.
Well, we had so few media outlets or media different types of entertainment programming. Most of us weren't allowed to watch the television, certainly not during the day, but radio you could have going on while you're outside doing stuff. And that's, we all listened to the same ads and the same, it was a great way to like direct market it. Wham-O was pretty brilliant at that, at promoting these big events that were basically just for Wham-O products.
Yeah.
And you know, it was great because it was a great Wham-O product. Everybody loved it.
Oh, it was so good. Yes.
So these Frisbee fly-ins, I find it's cool that basically Tom learns the art of tournament or competition at this great Frisbee fly-in in Atlanta. There's a lot of interesting connections between Tom and Atlanta specifically,
Yeah.
and disc golf, the perpetuation of disc golf. But they have distance and accuracy, and Tom wins both, right? Like
Yes.
one of his first events. The problem is for me as a researcher is that there's no data, but there's a database for PDGA disc golf events, but there's no database for old flying disc events. So you
Oh,
can't,
that's a shame.
yeah,
Yeah.
you can't go and see, okay, I want to see the stats from these events. It's unless you're the winners or the top, you know, cashers, you can see the results in the box scores and all the magazines that were running through the 70s, but there's no database you can go to. It's tough.
You know, the really interesting, we'd go to tournaments and have 7 events to do in a weekend. And that was really difficult to fit all that in after a while. But and Tom usually won everything. Maximum time aloft. That was one of his good events.
Mm. Well, sorry, Base, we got a little off the Tom script. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, for
Uh,
sure. One of the things that I found really interesting that Paul found on the internet was in 1974, Tom writes a letter to Wham-O and secures a meeting with Steady Ed, who tells Tom about the World Frisbee Championships. Tom told Ed that he knew about it, or had he known about it, that he would have been there. And Ed just kind of laughed him off and was like, "Oh yeah, well you got to earn an invitation first." And you know, Tom told Ed that he would be there the next year, and he was, and then he was, and you know, and he never failed to you know, to qualify after that. And you know, it's this kind of thing is really to me is far more fascinating than finding out who won this and who won that back in the 70s, because this is, you know, this is like where the, you know, where the roots began to be really
yeah, the
truly laid
baby
down.
steps.
Yeah, and those baby steps are monumental now and monstrous. You know, it's just one of those things where this wedge just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And but it's great when you find out where it started. And that you know, obviously you probably had no idea, but then, you know, probably 10 years and 20 years later, you look back on all that time that you spent with him and around him, and it had to just really be something that was great for you to sit and think about and remember, you know. And then when he pops into your store, then here comes a whole bunch more memories and a whole bunch of new, you know, old memories and then new memories being created from there.
Yep.
So was Tom, try to get the sense of Tom. He's obviously a gifted athlete, very talented, dexterous, muscular individual. He was obviously into the dead. You guys had a very great cerebral relationship. What kind of guy was he? Was he cocky? Was he kind of proud of his, you know, overly proud of his abilities? Was he?
He was just, I just remember him as always being funny. And he would push people, and he had a laugh, and he knew how to pull chains on people, and so he'd just be working people over and laughing, and he just was always a funny life of the party guy. He was just great.
But you couldn't get mad at a guy like that, right?
Oh, you could, but it went away.
So he's pronounced Rookie of the Year by the IFA in 1975. It says he comes to Toronto and wins the international accuracy title. Did he tell you about his early trips to Toronto?
Not all the time. We got caught up on things, because of just be sitting to face each other and talk, but there were things I missed. So
But would
it's
he
kind
tell
of, if I
you?
had known, I might have been there. Yeah,
Would he tell you places like, Patty, you got to go to this place. Next time there's an event there, next time there's a meet, you got to come with me. You got to go check it out.
yeah.
Do you remember any places that he really wanted you to go check out?
No.
Okay.
Because he knew I'd be there.
Okay.
Oh, and I met John at the big tournament the Wham-O threw in St. Louis, and we really hit it off. And I I'd been thinking about things, and so I suggested to John that he come back to Georgia with me, and he could start disc golf and he was a Californian, and there were plenty of people in California running and managing and making things happen, but there was nobody in Georgia. So that's one reason I hooked on John and made him come back home with me. And he's cute too.
Well, yeah, and I was gonna say, and besides that, the horse and the whole shining armor thing, right?
Oh yeah. He's a good guy.
All right. Well, before we'll get more at length into John. Let's just jump to those days of the overall tournaments. You say you played 7, and people don't know the kind of grind that it would be sometimes. Especially the World Frisbee Championships were in August in LA. You're breathing smoggy, dirty air. Did you go to any of those WFCs?
No.
Okay.
Bad
Okay.
air.
Did you earn any invites? Because your personal record.
I don't think I ever earned an invite, but I was deeply involved in the sport in Georgia. And so there were things that I wasn't trying to do to get to something like that, because I really was interested in trying to help with the growth of the sport in Georgia.
Well, I think Statmando site seems to be down right now, but from what I remember seeing, I think the first Georgia-based event that's in any kind of database is from 1980. Were there Frisbee fly-in meets or tournaments that were happening before 1980 that you recall in Georgia?
Yes, but they were small. Nothing was. There was always a few people, but I don't remember. Do you have the thing for the year that Tom threw his first tournament in Huntsville? Because that was the first big one that happened in the South.
Okay. Let's see. I'm not sure if I have that on hand right now.
Because I remember meeting everybody, all the Texans showed up for that tournament. Everybody from Texas was there.
Wow.
Oh.
We're gonna have to look into that. So at an overall event, you're still, by the way, you still hold a world record for outdoor accuracy record for women 35 to 44. You set that in 1991 in Santa Cruz.
Yeah.
So obviously you've said to Mace that disc golf was always your favorite of the flying disc sports. Freestyle was second, but accuracy you're pretty good at. What else? What else did you like? Or what are the events in the overall that you did not like?
I just liked all of them.
Okay. Was there?
And I like freestyle. I like freestyle a lot. I was really always trying to work on tricks on that, but yeah, I just enjoyed everything.
Okay.
And some I wasn't very good at, but I didn't care because I was out playing Frisbee.
Right.
That's a perfect attitude. Now, okay, we're gonna a couple of quick little digestible bites on some of our past pioneer women of disc golf guests we've had. Do you remember your first meeting with Tita?
yes, I was just in awe of her because she was just she has such a great reputation and she was such a good player. And I was just thrilled when I met her. She's really nice.
Yeah. Oh, she's wonderful. What about Cheryl Newland?
Cheryl who?
Newland.
Oh, that was way back. Gosh. And I never got to see her much, but we enjoyed each other's company.
Yeah, I can only imagine what the two of you got into.
Yep. And let your imagination be big. Yep.
Okay, what about Susie Horn?
Oh, what a sweetheart. I just always enjoyed getting to play with her. She's quite good.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was funny. She was very unsure whether we'd have enough material for a whole show on her. And she said, wouldn't it be better if we do with Mark? And we were like, no, you're a
Yeah.
superstar. We need to hear your story too. All on
Yeah,
your
good
own.
for you. Yeah. She
Oh, yeah, for
deserved it
sure.
because she really was good.
Okay, final one before we move on to the early days of touring and some of your hitchhiking stories. Michelle Marini, any early remembrances of
Once
her?
again, what an excellent woman to get to meet and stand back and watch her play. And I always admired her skill level because she was always good.
She was a real power thrower in the early times.
Yeah.
I think she still has the indoor distance record.
No kidding.
Yeah, I think so.
That's
Pretty
neat.
sure. Okay.
Right on. Well, so let's talk a little bit about the North American series and your early days and method of touring. So you and I had a great conversation the other day, and you told me about your love for hitchhiking. So
Yeah, it was the 70s and I learned how to hitchhike. And I asked a friend, what's the thing on being a hitchhiker? And she said, everybody's that's going to stop to pick you up is bored and they just want to be entertained. And so tell them good stories. And so I'd stand by the road and set up the disc and do spins. And people would pull over and go, do you want to ride? And I go, yeah, that would be real nice. Where are you going? And we talk and I go, okay, they're okay. So I'd get in the car and I talk Frisbee the whole way and never had any problems.
So
I go to Frisbee tournaments. I have a lot of fun.
you were spreading Frisbee enlightenment and awareness all across so many
All
vectors.
across the nation.
That's awesome. So you actually hitchhiked from Atlanta to LA.
No, I hitchhiked from LA to Atlanta.
Okay.
oh,
And what
but
are
still,
what are
that's
some
still quite a journey. I mean, that's
That was quite a journey. And after that one, I never hitchhiked again. I figured if I got out of that ride okay, then I better quit right then.
how long did
Yeah.
that one take?
3 days.
3 days.
with the same vehicle, the same driver, the whole?
Nope.
Okay.
How many vehicles? How many rides?
Oh my God. I'm gonna have to think about that because I don't it's all a blur.
Yeah.
Getting in, getting out. Oh, the best part was when we got behind a chicken truck and the damn chickens were squawking away and oh, let's get going, you know. I'm really, like I say, I'm really happy I survived that period of time and my family didn't know about it. So that's all.
Sorry to out it all right now.
Yeah.
Well, it's really that's just like taking the whole couch surfing thing to a whole nother level or to another.
Yeah.
Sure. And and a lot of people can't deal with it. A lot of people can't wrap their head around that whole idea. And I think that's probably is almost, I don't know that I haven't gone to that depth of freedom, but I certainly have. Like I've rolled in till 7 or 8 in the evening on a Friday and not knowing where I was staying for the weekend 100%, and then had it lock up. Like people are going, hey, where are you staying tonight? And I was like, oh, hadn't thought of that. And and they're like, well, come stay with us. And
Yeah,
it
that's the
all
way it
seems to
works.
take care of itself. And that's one of the things that's really like, that's one thing that we keep hearing about as a common thread from your era to our era and beyond, is that folks are still very willing to let you come crash on their couch. It's not necessarily the right idea. And honestly, I can't remember the last time I saw anybody with their thumb out on the side of the road that that wasn't homeless with a cardboard sign.
Oh
And
yeah, that's way in the past now.
Now, did you ever hitchhike between Frisbee events?
No,
Okay,
I'd
because
always go
there's
back home and then wash my clothes and go to another one.
okay. I mean, because but you would go, you would travel out for some of these Frisbee events, right? You were among the
Yeah.
early, yeah. There is you. Have you met Glenn Whitlock? Do you know Glenn Whitlock?
Who?
Glenn Whitlock from
Yeah. Oh
DC?
yeah. Yeah. Great guy.
Great guy, but it blows my mind how he was able to tour professionally and hitchhike pretty well, never owning a vehicle and never driving, but
like
mainly
even
hitchhiking and doing
late
events.
like 08, 09. I gave him a ride to the ferry one time in Michigan, and it was probably in 07, maybe 08, actually 07. And he was still doing it. Like, I've he's done it. They have a bus, but man, I can't remember his wife's name. I'm terrible with names, but she generally keeps it and he goes off without it. Like he'll travel out like when he went to that event, you ran into him in Toronto at that freestyle event. He'll travel out like that and then he'll he'll work it. I don't think he's sticking his thumb out. I think he's just working,
Yeah.
working the friends for rides. Like the
Yeah.
new it's like the new style of hitchhiking. Go
Everybody
around.
wanted to give him one.
But the problem is you can't arrange anything at a players meeting anymore because they don't have them.
Okay, so let's talk about players meetings. 1977, we've talked to some people who played what's called the PDGA inaugural at Craigmere. That's not actually the first PDGA tournament, which happened in Mobile, or outside of Mobile at the KOA grounds. You attended that. That was a 2-day event. The
That's
Craigmere
right.
happened on the Sunday, but the Mobile event happened on the Saturday and Sunday. Leading up to that, did you feel the buzz in the air? Did you feel like this was going to be an important thing, the PDGA and a PDGA tournament?
Yeah, I did. I did. I was like, it's like it was amazing that it was being so practical and yeah, it was a lot of work for the people to get it ready and I was just really glad to be there. Because once
And
again, when you get to be there and be one of the first people to ever do it, something, it's really kind of cool.
absolutely. I mean, you look at the names that were at that event, and that's the foundation event, and you kind of felt the special tingle in the air. I mean, you had to pay to join. Yeah, that's where you get your number from. Some people got their numbers in the year before that, but did they have poll holes there? Do you remember?
No.
Okay. So there again, you show up and you go, okay, what are we throwing at today? This was a problem, was the consistency of targets at a lot of those early events, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like most of them were never any good. Oh, I remember, was it Tom put chicken wire in the ground, and that you had to throw your disc so it landed inside the chicken wire. That was so annoying.
Yeah, we've heard some interesting, like the fact that they had major tournaments on these rather interesting contraptions.
Yes.
Most people don't know how hard it was back then.
And it's like those things, I guess, that if they're putting pipes in under the ground, and so they got these concrete things and they stand about as tall as your waist, and so they'd have those there, and nobody wanted to throw their disc into concrete.
Right, for
Right.
sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, nowadays people carry, whatever, 20, 30 in their bag, but you guys would have, how many discs would you roll? If you had to go to out of town and go to a Frisbee tournament, how many would you roll
Probably about 7.
with? Right. That's beautiful. So, in that range between 77 and 81, looking at the database, There's really the PDGA only shows the PDGA database only shows 3 events, two from '77, and then in '78 you went to Minneapolis to play the IFA North American Series. Were you so obviously the PDG the record isn't very thickly studded, but do your personal recollections, do you remember going to a lot of tournaments in between '77 and '81 that aren't listed on this database?
Well, I'm not sure about the database because I wasn't even thinking about that. I just went to every tournament I could.
But you remember going to a lot of tournaments in say
Yeah.
'78, '79. Okay. Sadly, it's lost to historical, obscurity, unfortunately.
Oh,
Uh,
that's
I shouldn't say it's lost. I can't find it. That doesn't mean it's lost. But I want to make it my mission to find that information because does anything stand out from any of those early days, the late '70s? Anything at any tournament, any new place that you went, anything that turned out it was like, oh, this was huge, or maybe a gallery or television or anything that pops in your memory from those days?
No, because everything was just kind of a beginner thing and it was all small.
Okay.
So Toronto would have some big tournaments. I remember, always remember that. And the West, I don't even think, oh, Tom Schott had some big ones out at his place. Tom Schott was really putting on some good tournaments, come to think of it.
Well, we've had oftentimes we've talked to people. At one point, there was the World Flying Disc Championships that Tom Schott ran in Santa Cruz,
Yes.
World Frisbee Championships, and the PDGA Worlds. In 1982, you had 3 World Championships happening on the continent. Did you go to Santa Cruz for one of Tom Schott's events?
I don't think I ever did because I had the business running then and I knew I wasn't as good as those women that were playing there. So it was kind of easy to miss it because those were just some sparkly good women.
Right. Okay, well let's talk 1982 then.
This is a good, so this is kind of seems to be a recurring theme, and for obvious reasons that so many people were spawned out of these common circles on the West Coast. And in 1982 you went to that North American Series event in St. Louis and met your knight in shining armor. And it's really interesting to hear, we had George Sappenfield on a while back, and it's cool to hear that John had him as an instructor in college.
Yes.
And it's really cool to see how many of those circles intertwine and interact and interloop with one another. And so
yeah.
you told me that he was the only person at the event in St. Louis that you didn't know. Is that true? I mean, did you know everybody else?
Yeah, I knew everybody because it was all the Southeast people, sort of. And so by that time, we'd all been playing together. Oh man, 8 years, something like that. And so, yeah, it was a family. It felt like you're back with the family reunion thing or something.
And all of a sudden, a new cousin emerges, and you're like, "Hey,
who's that guy?" Yeah, people were going, "Oh, that's John David. He won the tournament in California. Oh, he won this tournament. Oh, he won that tournament." I'm going, who is this guy?
That's good stuff. Well, it's also another fascinating part of that story is that when you did coerce him into moving to Atlanta, and he packed up everything in a Jeep that he bought from Steady Ed. And I had a van for a long time, and there was a couple of years when I was doing Frisbee travels. There was a couple of years where I had a trailer, and the trailer was too much for the van, and it drove me around. So whenever I read this story, or when he talked about he was only able to pass 2 cars, and they were both connected during the whole trip. I've done some miles like that, and it's really, you learn a lot. It's like it's a whole nother. It's a character builder, but I haven't done it from the Bay Area to Atlanta, which is damn near all the way across the country. So that's really interesting to think about that, and just think about the dues that he was paying on that Jeep trip, because man, it probably had a soft top too, didn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, all the way across the country in a soft top, I probably
Yeah.
would have I probably would have got my stuff out of it and put a for sale sign on it as soon as I got to Atlanta.
Oh,
Because
he loved that Jeep and rode it in a while and then gave it to a good friend.
yeah, that's a tough one. That's a really tough one. So in 1985, y'all two opened flying identified flying objects, and there's got to be just a litany of stories that you can tell us about that. Like some of the things you shared, like the really interesting story about the guy who sent you a letter, whose friends had been in your store, and he was certainly convinced that you could carry his dead art, and then that just kind of started a whole nother angle. Besides all the
Yeah.
other things talked about with darts and frisbees and kites and that kind of thing as well.
Well, we got inspired. Oh, I gosh, I can't even think of who was doing it. Some guy in Charlotte was selling. Who was that? Oh man, he was a names are flying out of my head so fast I can't recall it. But one of our Frisbee friends in Charlotte sold.
Russell, is it Russell Schwartz?
No,
Okay.
yeah, but he just inspired us to think about you could put all these items together and sell them in the stores. So when we wanted to maybe start a business, so we have something to do. So we started, and it was in my neighborhood where I live, so we could walk to the store. And
Nice.
yeah, it made it all easy. So that's why we started the store, because we just needed to create a career.
So there's
Yeah, I just saw a picture of me from my store.
there's the store right there, 1164 Euclid Avenue,
And
brick and
that's me
mortar.
as a golden haired beauty.
I would have loved to have seen this store. And you lived in the area, so you
Yeah,
spent. So how long did you move straight to Little Five Points when you moved to Atlanta?
pretty much.
Okay, that's amazing. And has was it always as bohemian and beatnik from the
Yes.
start as when okay.
Well, yeah, there were the people who were the little farmers that came into the city, but it, whatever was happening in the 70s really caught on to that neighborhood.
Okay.
Yeah. And there were a lot of good places to go hear music. The Allman Brothers started not so far from where we lived, and we all love the Allman Brothers, and other bands would come and play for free in the parks around. And it was just a real loving time, like hippies always were. We all loved each other.
Well, it's been described as the Haight Ashbury of Atlanta, and
Yeah,
it just seems like infused with that magical. Every town has got, well, every large town has got a place similar to that. Some places are a lot more rich and vibrant and flourishing, but a lot of the towns have those cool little areas where you go and
exactly.
it's a
Yeah.
different world and it's beautiful. And so to meet someone who actually lives in the beating heart of that different world is great.
Well,
Yes.
and was part of the beating heart as well. I mean, that's nice. Well, and there's just so many like we were talking about earlier too. There's so many parallels that happen throughout the sport, and it's obviously something that's you know immediately visible in spots like that. That ups and downs and slope trends and stuff like that. The and so one of the things that I forgot about until we talked the other day, but as one of the items that y'all made were golf bags, and then eventually you made the scoreboards.
Yeah, John was good at designing new things, and he decided he's going to make the best golf bag, and he did. Nobody had made a golf bag that was, because it stood up, and everybody else had round golf bags, but his had a base on the bottom so it would stand up, and that just sort of changed everything.
That
But
was a
yeah,
That was
disc caddy.
he invented the first golf bag I ever saw.
Was that the IFO disc caddy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. Rusty Shanks, one of my good friends, that's his disc golf nickname. He still has that bag.
So
Real.
nice to hear that. They were good bags.
Now about the scoreports, I remember when I ran my first tournament, my first PDGA tournament, I ran that in 1998. And in the lead up, getting ready for that, thinking about the players pack, thinking about how do I do this? What do I do? And I remember looking in the magazine and seeing an ad for the scoreport from IFO, and I ordered that, and it's still in use.
Nice to hear that.
Yeah. So I think, you guys have done more for helping tournament directors around. I mean, obviously, there are a lot more brands in the game now, but you guys were the ones, I think, were you the first selling them?
The first what?
The first ones to sell these scoreports?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, John was ahead of, he was basically a step ahead of people on the, oh, well, we need to have this good score, okay, go ahead, invent it, honey.
Nice. Was there inspiration from the those wooden scoreboards that Steve Lambert made for the 97 Worlds?
I'm sure there must have been.
Because I mean, like those still, we well, that'll come up next episode, but those things I still see them every now and then because I've been on staff at USCGC and they come up like because that's who's got them, and you're just like, oh wait a minute, and it's not like that was the difference. Like that one took effort. Your stuff, fold it up, put it in the car. Okay, let's load all the other stuff. It's no big deal. Oh, it just slides right behind those boxes. Everything's good.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But it's those things that's like a milestone. Oh, I remember when my poor scores were posted on those boards.
Well, yeah.
and the glory of playing the top division and being in the top card that maybe only happened in my dreams, but seeing up there up top rather than looking down on the bottom of the graph. Where's my name normally? One thing that came out in the research, and I don't know where this was, I think it was somewhere where I was looking on, I think it was on a website about the little 5 points. But it notes that you and John were Frisbee grandmasters. Is that true?
We were grandmasters.
Frisbee grandmaster, like with the Wham-O Frisbee master and grandmaster designation.
Yeah.
Did you become those?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. We loved it. What can I say?
Well, I mean, there's not a huge amount of Frisbee grandmasters in the world. I mean, you can play grandmasters division, but you are a grandmaster.
Yeah, we invented it. Once again, we invented it.
So in 1982, one of the other big things about 1982, and ironically or interestingly enough, it happens at that St. Louis tournament, is that you go up to the tournament directors and you say, hey, listen, I want to play women's masters. And they're like, what are you talking about? We don't have a women's masters division. And you basically tell them, I'm going to play masters, men's masters, just to make my point, but get ready because we're coming.
Exactly.
And I mean, you've been that pioneer leading the way and a lot of people in your wake. Talk to us about the importance of that masters, because you had turned masters, I think, in 82. Back then, the PDGA recognized it at 35.
Yeah.
And so how did it feel like playing with the men and making that point?
Well, it felt, there were so many good women players that I was trying to be one of those good women players, but I was getting a little older. And so I thought that's why they have age divisions, and I just wanted it to be recognized that they're going to have an age division. They might, and a lot of times it just takes somebody saying, oh, well, you're going to have an age division because we're all old now. So that's what it was all about.
Were there some women who might have kind of turned away because there was no women's masters, or
there weren't enough women?
Okay.
I don't think, I think if anybody showed up, they were ready to play. And where you ended up, because you played, that was the main thing. It didn't matter if you really won or lost, because you played in an event that nobody else was doing.
Yeah, that's tough to be. I mean, you call it being a drama queen, but it's more just asserting your will on the tournament directors and telling them the truth, what's coming, right?
Right.
Like You didn't pull a hissy fit or anything. You just said, "This is the reality. We're gonna have to get used to
You
it."
better get ready. We're on our way.
And that kind of thing happens in life all the time too, where until someone says to you, "Hey, you really ought to think about it like this," you might not ever come to that conclusion. You might just continue thinking about it the way you did before, and then we're like, "Hey, wait a minute! Look at all these ladies you could have over here."
Right.
And I mean, I still think there's something besides that that's keeping women away, but we're gonna do whatever we can to keep them in.
Yes.
So we're going to move to 1983, and just to set this up for Mace, in the PDGA database or the StatMando database, which by the way is an amazing database for stats, StatMando. On the Masters level, you're, at least what we see from the record, the first time that you played in as a FPM, I guess, was the World Seniors overall in San Diego. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
What was that like? It says there were 17 players in the overall, or just in the tournament, but there must have been more people there playing seniors overall. Was there?
Man, I'm it seems like there were more people. Yeah, but it's I don't know, how things can start running together after a while. So
Absolutely.
well, yeah, I just don't I never really got deep about thinking about this kind of stuff. I was just like, I'm here to play.
So how was San Diego then? What was it like there?
Fun. I love me some San Diego.
I've only been there once, and I was amazed to see bananas and pineapples growing side by side. And I was like,
Well, I kind of, when I got there the first time, I sort of thought, well, if there is a God, heaven has to be just like San Diego. That was the feeling I got when I was there, because it was just a perfect place.
wow.
Yeah.
And what were the players there like? I mean, some of the best players in the world come from California. Were they on display there?
Well, they were on display, and they sort of had a real good opinion of themselves, and and it was fun to try to work your way in.
All right, well, let's talk. There's some other important factors in 1983 that make that such a historical year, right, Mace?
Well, for sure, yeah. I mean, the one of the things that happened there was that year was started seeing the introduction of the beveled edge disc, and was that something? Was that something that you really thought highly of at the beginning, or were you skeptical of it? I mean, how was that
I
received in
loved
your
it.
community? You
I
loved it
loved it. Yeah,
right off the bat.
it fit my hand real good. Yeah.
So that felt, I'm sure that seemed like a great improvement. So, but then it's similar, something else that was happening at the same time was the end of the IFA and then the national, or excuse me, the NAS events and the World Frisbee Championships. So did that seem like that was, did that, was there, what was the transition like from the IFA to the PDGA? Did it seem like there was a big hiccup there, or was it just a smooth move? It really didn't seem like any change at all.
Well, I think I just felt like it was a smooth move, and I didn't remember much conversation or action. People were like, "Oh, look, this is what we're doing now," and so because Frisbee kept changing on us.
Natural evolution, and that was just another. It wasn't even really. Doesn't sound like it was even a bump in the road.
Yeah, at least we got to play. Oh, you want to see a new name and a new way to do it? Okay, fine, let's go play.
But you became a part of the first board of directors for the PDGA, so you obviously gave this a lot more energy and attention than the average person who just wanted to play.
Right.
And so, do you remember what year that you first joined? Was it 82, 83 that the
It
board
was
of directors?
probably 82, and I couldn't believe that they voted me in. I got nominated, but I was just a silly, goofy person, and so it's like, you want to put me on the board now, please? But they did.
And how long did you stay on the board?
Well, I was on it for a year, and the thing that I found that was so hard to do that is getting people who called you up and they had opinions and they wanted to sit and go over the thises and the thatas of what could happen. And, I'm just not that kind of person. This is it, deal with it. That's my kind of thinking. So, and I remember that nobody on the board was really doing that much. And I knew that our time period was almost over. So I contacted everybody and said, we have to look like we've been working. So we have to come up with a few plans. And so I made them think about it and plan it. So I feel like I was real. I didn't try to tell them what to do, but I got them doing stuff that we needed to do to make the sport grow.
That's beautiful.
And so you just served that one term?
Yeah. I don't like doing stuff like that, so I didn't run again.
Is that rank up there with being at work at 7 a.m. teaching kids and stuff like that?
Oh yeah, that. I lasted 2 years being a teacher, and then I became a waitress. What do you do when you got a degree in PE and you don't want to do that, so you become a waitress? Be quiet. My phone was ringing. Be quiet. Okay.
Well, it's true.
So-
I mean,
Go ahead.
go ahead. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, one of the things that I was leading up to next was that 1983 was the first time that women played at the World Championship. And I can only just imagine that you were probably one of the people that shook that tree the most to make that happen. Is that true?
Um,
In terms of just like, hey, we need a division at the World Championship.
I don't know if I ever did something like that because I don't recall that. I'm gonna have to think on that for a while because I know that I had words that I could have with people like Tom, telling Tom stuff and all that, and he'd buy what I was telling him, but I wasn't really instrumental in getting that change happening.
Okay.
No.
I didn't care.
When you were there, though, did you this is a year after St. Louis where you told them the women's masters are coming. Did you use that as an opportunity to repeat that line there in 83?
No.
Okay.
I told them, they knew.
Well, so then this was another thing. This is another great thing about Tom too, is he was he was the TD and he took first place in the Masters division and came a close second in Open. So that
Yeah.
kind of that'll tell you a little bit about his skill set. I'm gonna run the event, and then I'm gonna win in the age protected division, and I'm a damn near win in the unage protected division.
Yeah.
He also shot a 16 under at Redstone Arsenal, which set the record for the lowest ever in a world championship until 96 in South Bend with Jeff Lissaman shooting a 17. So there's Tom just again putting his imprint on disc golf history.
I remember walking around watching Tom play in that tournament, and I don't remember who I was walking with, but her husband was also competing, and she's going, what do we have to do to make Tom miss? I said, give up. He's not going to. He was truly, I feel lucky that I got to be part of his team.
Yeah, I one of my biggest regrets is not having directly met the man, and never will, unfortunately. But thanks to you, talking to you and doing this research, it feels like we kind of in communion with him.
Well, I just feel honored talking to you guys. So this has just been a total treat.
So just want to jump a couple years. We're gonna touch on brief little things. I want to talk to you about Rochester Worlds 1984. Also, incidentally, that's the first year that there's a PDGA tournament in Georgia. John David had moved there in 82, and we're late 82, early 83. And by 84, he's running Georgia the Jungle. Is that his first ever experience as a TD?
Did he what?
Was that his first experience as a tournament director?
Well, he'd been in sports all of his life, so he just pursued different sports. And John wasn't anybody that didn't just immediately go to the top and run it. I mean, he really he was good. So he always he I was amazed watching how people really listened to him and liked him.
Mm.
And he and Ed hit it off real good, and Ed tried to talk John into taking over the Wham. When Ed was tired of running Wham-O, he wanted John to do it, and John didn't want to.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so that's when Ed turned to Stork?
No, that's just when Ed was ready to get out of it.
Oh, okay.
And
Wow.
John didn't want to do it. And I kind of wanted him to do it, but I didn't push him. I think in hindsight, it's better that we didn't have to, because it's hard work running that. People have a lot of opinions and they want to get on the phone and call you and tell you their opinions.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I realized we were lucky we didn't get into that.
See, what people don't realize now is now there's social media, there's comment sections. People could just passively leave all those comments and you can or can't look at them if you up to you. But if your phone rings off the hook, you got to be answering the phone. You don't. In the
Yeah.
70s, we didn't have those kind of technologies. The phone rang, you answered it.
Right.
And
Yeah, that's when people communicated with each other.
sometimes the
What a
communication is really-
concept.
Okay, so Rochester Worlds. You go up to Rochester, and is this isn't your first contact with Canadians, is it?
Correct.
It is.
No, it's not.
Okay. Is this the first time that you meet Joanne Gallagher, though?
Probably.
And did she leave an impression on you from the beginning?
Oh, she was just a superstar. She was a great woman, a great player, and a lot of fun to be with, and just had a good heart. And I can't say enough good things about her. She was great.
We'll make sure to tell her all that.
Good.
Marie Jackson Elsner repeats as world champion.
Yes.
Do you remember her?
Oh, yes.
What can you tell us about her?
She was kind of quiet and played good enough to win 2 big tournaments.
Great.
So we weren't ever sure who quite would win, because like my skill level often had me in the second group going out, not the first group. And she was always in the first group going out. And so those first group people would look at each other like going, "Ooh, who's going to win today?" And she did it. She was remarkably good.
Wow.
I think she's one of those people that when she needed to, she could really bear down and make it happen, because she did.
Well, it'd be nice to learn more about a lot of these competitors.
Yeah.
Like someone like Judy Horowitz. She finished second. Do you remember Judy?
Yeah, but I didn't. We were from different parts of the country, and I did not know her very well at all. I just knew that she was one of the star players on the tournament.
What about Vanessa Chambers?
She was when she moved to the South and I got to play with her, I never won another tournament. She was such a good player. And we'd all just stand in awe and watch her play and do, as she was just a really good player. Very focused.
Right.
She didn't like us sometimes because we talked a lot, but other than that.
You chatting on the tee? Come
I
on.
know, imagine.
That didn't happen, did it?
Uh-huh.
Well, so then the next year in 1985 in Tulsa, you took third in FPO out of 32, and that's obviously a great showing. The winner was Ramona Hale, and then isn't Vanessa from Tulsa, if I'm not mistaken?
No,
Wasn't
she was from the north, or she lived in like North Carolina or something. But I know she was on the north side of the world, I think.
Okay, because I know that she's in South Carolina now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Okay, well, I thought that maybe she had been in Tulsa first, but I'm not sure about any of
No,
that.
she wasn't.
So she took second, or actually excuse me. No, yeah, she took second, you took third. Roxanne Spencer took fourth. So was this where you met Gail McCall at this event as well? Was that the first time you encountered her? Because we see
Yes.
her record as well. And then Elaine King as well.
Yes. And that's when I could beat Elaine King too. Which never happened again, but she was good, man. She was good.
And she's always seemed like a young. She looks young. She's well preserved. When I've seen photos of her, she looked like a really young, small person then. Did she come across as that kind of wafy, wispy person? I mean, she's solid intellectually, I know that, but did she look like young?
Not as a not as a she wasn't I didn't think of her small.
Okay.
Yeah, and she was very accurate. So
Well, she obviously Elaine and Gail coming out of Toronto, we're very interested in stories about that. I know I've said this before many times, but just take the opportunity now. Gail and we actually went to the same high school. She was years
no
before me.
kidding.
Yeah. So I always feel an extra tinge of excitement when we talk to guests about Gail.
Now where was that? Where
In Toronto's East End, Malvern.
Toronto. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's deep. That's good.
I remember when about 10 years ago, I was doing some research in local newspapers from the early mid 70s, and I came across a photo in the local neighborhood newspaper showing Gail doing freestyle moves at the water filtration plant. It was perfect. It was big open space with lots of wind coming through.
She was basically known as the first woman who could freestyle because nobody else was doing the moves that Gail was doing.
Did you see her freestyle?
Yes.
And what did you think?
I was in awe.
Okay.
It just made me so happy that a woman had that kind of control. She was really good at it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
so
nice.
let's move on to 87 here. And since we're talking Toronto, we'll talk your visit to Toronto for the two tournaments, the Canadian PDGA Championships and the Worlds. But you didn't play the Canadian Championships, did you? I think you DNF'd in that. Do you remember? Was it an injury? Do you remember?
I think John had an injury and I was helping him through an injury.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then you played the Island Worlds. And
Right.
What were your impressions of that? That wasn't your first time to Toronto, though, was it?
No, it wasn't. And you know what's funny is John and I well they let the couples stay in one place and then the guys stay in another place and women stay in another place. And so where they had put the men and women, the couples, was hot and nasty. And so John said, let's go get a room over with the men and we'll just work it all out. And so I stayed in the men's hotel dorm, and people would let me go take a shower. Somebody would just guard the door for me, and then and it was really, and John and I both had bicycles there, so we had a blast getting around.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
It's having a bike and interacting with the island is the best.
It is. It was one of the best. I loved that. Yeah.
So when you went back in 87, was it just like kind of a bit of a homecoming? You'd had some good experiences, good memories of Toronto. Now you're going to play the World Championships here. What were you feeling at that time?
Good feelings. Just
Right.
good feelings all the way. Yay, I'm at a good tournament, Toronto. This is going to be great fun.
I mean, it stands out. Obviously, I dwell on this because Toronto, it's the only time that the Worlds have ever left the United States. Did it seem like a big deal at the time for you guys?
Not for me.
Okay.
It was an ongoing career of finding places to go play Frisbee.
I love it.
Wherever I was, I didn't matter. I just wanted to play.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, that's good stuff for sure. For sure. So in 1988, you went to the Cincinnati World Championships. 3 women played Masters. Oh, 3 women's Masters events played, excuse me, and you got 3 wins. So that was a good move for you, moving up to the Masters.
Yeah.
Played Ohio State Championship. You were first to 4, and then the world divisional doubles with Midge Erkenbrecher.
Yes. She's
Nice.
great.
I don't know her at all, but I know that place is just amazing. The where we went in '98 at her place there. That place was
You got to
awesome.
stay at her place.
No, we played there for the Worlds in
Oh,
'98.
they were they were like the parents that took people into their house and were very kind to Frisbee players.
Wow.
She
Nice.
and her husband.
Did they have kids that played too, or is it just them that
Yes,
played?
they had
Oh, okay.
kids, grown-up kids.
So was '98 the first time they had Masters at the World Championship?
I'm not sure.
No.
Nope.
Well, I gotta say that like
But I'll believe you.
95 was the first time I went to Cincinnati, and the Mount Airy Forest is still one of my favorite courses of all time.
Oh yeah.
And that, I mean, like that place, like to be, there's so many places in this game that you can find yourself in the middle of a metropolitan area, but like being like so far away from it. Like just basically because you walked a couple of holes away from the parking lot, and then you're just like in this valley or in this canyon or wherever, depending. But like that Mount Airy Forest is one of those places where you drive into that, and it's like you drove into a different world almost immediately driving into the park.
I know what you're talking about. That did feel like that.
Yeah.
And we get into these spots. I mean, the island could be described as that too, until you walk up on the the canals and stuff like that over there by the docks, or by the yacht club. But you find yourself, there's so many different times throughout your experience in the game that you're just like, wow, wait a minute, we're like 3 blocks away from like complete fully civilized parts of town, but you can't even hear it right now, and
You know what I remember about that tournament? That was a year that the cicadas had come out.
oh yeah.
Yeah. And the last hole that we played that day was it wasn't that long, but it was trees on both sides, working your way down to where the basket was. And it was getting a little bit dark, and it felt like we were in outer space because these noises were happening all around us, and we just wanted to get our disc in and get out of there.
Possessed by the spirits of cicadas. I love it.
Yeah. Oh, that was so creepy.
So listen, we've had a great time talking stories. We want to keep you on for a little bit longer, but we're gonna just skip ahead in the script here, because there's some great stuff we want to still talk about. And I just want to roll this video while Mace, you can talk about the little 5 points and IFO, and it's obvious to anyone watching that you are quite a bit of a free spirit. So this is little 5 points is an area in downtown
Oh, there's my
Atlanta.
car. There's a Queen car.
So this is a video. This is the 2007 Halloween parade,
Yes.
and the community organization puts this together. Is that right?
Yes.
And they get you. How many times have you been the queen?
Oh, people said nice picture. That people were saying that I helped to change the whole neighborhood. So I would be the queen because I made all the big changes in the neighborhood. And I'm just being who I am, so it doesn't matter like that. That's a great outfit.
They're Speedy.
They're Speedy. Yeah, when Speedy moved to Georgia, it was really fun. But anyway, it was all just really fun.
This is we won't play the whole video, but you get an idea of what it's all about. But Mace, let's just jump right into that section.
Well, so your store was located in that neighborhood, and you specialized obviously in frisbees and everything that flew, all kinds of airborne toys. But like that's just one of those things. Like you go to other towns and you find that place, but you don't necessarily find that place in every other town.
Well, you
And so,
don't find a place like the Frisbee store like we had. You find places, but the stuff we put together in our store was, I think, kind of unique.
well, and I think that's kind of that's the thing about a store like that too, is you will find one somewhere else, but it's going to be tailor made by the person. The man, what's the term I want to use here? The 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 person, man, it's what's the person that puts together the museum? I can't remember the name of it, but like,
Curator.
huh?
Curator.
Yeah, the curator. You're the curator of that particular store. And it's some people might look at it and go, that's not a museum. And it's like, but other people would look at it and go, yeah, it is. It's like the things that you found along your walk, along that hitchhiking trip or along that ride home with somebody that, that's one of the things that I found was really fascinating, that you said that you like to hitchhike out and then ride home with people that you ran into at events. And like that, like you feed one part of your soul on the ride out, and then on the way home you get fed by your friends as well, and you're doing the same thing to them. But those things, that's kind of the whole spirit of this, to me. It sounds like, to this little 5 points area. Would you agree with that?
Yes. Yeah, totally.
So I want to ask you about the store itself. I know you had the store for 20 years, and over that
Yes.
time, there's a lot of opportunities for trends to happen. In either toys or games or things. After the time of your store, one of the trends that I became aware of were fidget spinners or revamps of Rubik's cubes. Was there anything that you guys sold that, like, people, it was one of those trending items? I know you sold, kites, all things related to flying, but was there anything extra that went through in terms of merch that stands out in your mind? And you're like, I can't believe we sold those things, and I can't believe people bought them.
Mostly it was selling the Frisbees that we sold, because nobody marketed that anywhere, so we were able to be on the cutting edge of doing all of that. But um the whole that whole business was one of the things that helped me. Was one of the women that came in and helped. I gave some jobs out, and she said, Patty, you need to have toys for kids. That's the thing that was so funny. Patty, you need to have toys for kids. Like, I see the dads who are taking care of their kids, and they get them 1 day a week because of the way the divorce decree read. And so they want to bring them into your store to buy them something, and there's nothing there that they can buy. So that's when we started. But all the toys that I offered were flying toys. Yeah.
Now you before we went on the camera, you were telling us a story about Canadian musical, maybe icon is too big of a word, but Canadian musicians were at your store one time.
Oh, Bare Naked
icons.
Ladies.
Sorry, Mace, what'd you say?
Bare Naked Ladies.
Metric icons.
Metric icons. So the Bare Naked Ladies were in your store. Tell us about that. Tell us that story.
It's funny because every now and then somebody famous would be in the store, and it'd just be sort of like, oh my God, what are they doing here? But I didn't know who they were. They didn't know who I was. But once I talked to them and I taught them about disc golf, they were just thrilled. Oh, we'll go back home and play that. Where can we go play? Oh, I can play there. Okay, yeah, that's close. So they just loved the whole thought about the sport.
So they were in there and they were checking out the Frisbees, and you
they played down the street at the little club that was down there, and they were it was real fun to go hear them.
Right on.
Yeah.
And they were you helped them out so much they gave you free tickets to their show.
Yeah.
That's great. Did you become a fan of their music after that?
No. No, I thought they were quite good. But being the deadhead that I am, that's kind of where my music tastes. Like Allman Brothers and the Grateful Dead, that was where I was kind of leaning.
Okay. Yeah, the Bare Naked Ladies are nowhere near that kind of genre.
They're touring again.
Just as a quick side note, I think it was in the early 90s, maybe late 80s. One of the mayors of Toronto, I believe it was Barbara Hall, normally they would have on New Year's Eve, they would have local Toronto bands play. And this was when Bare Naked Ladies was getting a real big groundswell of support and momentum here in the city. And so they were going to headline this New Year's Eve show, but the mayor wouldn't let them because of their name. She found it offensive.
Oh,
Bare Naked Ladies. Yeah,
oh,
I swear to God.
Some people just can't stop being
poopy
stiff.
head.
Now, I'm stealing your thunder here, Mace, but maybe not necessarily bare naked, but there's a note here. You played topless once.
Well, it was early in our career. It was a very hot day. It was one of the first it wasn't the first tournament that Tom threw, but one of the early ones. And everybody there had their shirts off because they were so hot. And I think it was Jackie Entwistle and me just looked at each other and went, "Oh, let's go topless." And we said, "Okay." And so and there weren't that many people around, so we did it.
Did it improve your score?
Oh, we had all aces, honey. No. We just laughed too hard. I don't even know if we had a score.
So one of the things we want to talk to you about is a bit more of your legacy and possibly what a lot of people don't know. The Player of the Year awards that are given out by the PDGA. You've got the Hedrick Cup for the Male Player of the Year award. It's obvious. We know where that name comes from Steady Ed. The PDGA Female Player of the Year, they win the J&P Cup. And I don't know how many people know J&P stands for John and Patty. Does it not?
We don't know how many people know because once again, we weren't like tooting our horn, but it's like, oh, we'll just name it the J&P, and that's, if they can't figure it out, that's fine.
So, okay,
That's
first
awesome.
of all, that's awesome. That's an incredible legacy to leave behind and to honor women players. Your first nominee or honoree is Ann King. What can you tell us about Ann King?
I believe she was from where was she from? Texas, California.
I'm gonna have to check that out.
That's a good question.
She was just a really good player, good person, had good attitudes. She deserved it. If anybody did, she really deserved it. She was a really good player.
She might not be a familiar name to a lot of people. So, did she stay around playing much?
Not that long that I can remember.
I'm trying to look up her. Ann King, 2913 from Tulsa, Oklahoma. PDGA records show her from 85 through 99. And she gets honored in, what was the first year that you honored? 84 was the first year, was it not? That you honored the J&P Cup, that you gave that out?
I'm not
Yes.
sure, but I'll take your word for it.
Vanessa Chambers wins it 3 times in a row, 86, 87, 88.
Well, she was so good.
I mean, all you need to do, this is a kind of barometer of who was the hot woman golfer on the tour that year.
Yeah.
Elaine wins it 4 times, not in a row. Juliana wins it 4 times in a row, 5 times total. Des, I mean, these are big names. These are Hall of Fame names. Des wins it 4 times. Valerie wins it 5 in a row.
Valerie.
But
that's great.
The two women who have their names on it the most is Katrina Allen and Paige Pierce. Each of them have it 6 times.
Wow. That's pretty crazy that how many times that's gone to the same person and then moved to another person and they get it 5 times.
And they keep it for 5. And I'm learning something because I didn't know that was still being continued.
Oh yeah, 2023 they gave it to Kristen Tatar.
I'm really thrilled that is going on. That just makes my day.
Right on.
Yeah,
it's beautiful. Now we have another legacy thing we want to talk to you about.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole. That's obviously, since it's more or less in your backyard. There's other cool things that you guys have done for the IGGC, and I personally haven't got to play any of these courses, and now they're all going to get changed because of the Beetle. But one of the cool things that you donated was these wrought iron archways that are I guess the walkway that you go through to get to the first tee on all 3 of the championship courses out there.
Oh, that wasn't our design. Well, maybe John had something to do with designing that. I don't know, but they just put the courses in wait, where is it? No,
Appling.
yeah, Athens, not Athens.
Appling.
Yeah, well, we just Appling. Oh, that's it right outside. Oh, there we are. Huh. We oh, I'm just having such flashbacks here. This is great fun. Anyway, yeah, that's right outside of what is that city over there? Not Athens, but I can't think of it right now. My brain's fried. Sorry.
But
That's all right.
this is another thing that's a wonderful addition that you guys have given to the IDGC.
Well, good. You're pulling up things that I've just totally forgotten about because I miss the sport, but I haven't been around it much lately. So
This is
nice.
this is the kind of research that Paul does right here.
So this is one half of a basket that is where's the other half, Mace?
Oh, it's at Rock Hill at end of his office. There up
Oh
at Palmer's
yeah.
Rock Hill.
I just think this is an amazing contribution to disc golf, to the legacy for disc golf, and you know the fact that there is an international disc golf center that people can go to. One of the other things I wanted to show when we were talking about Steady Ed's truck that John bought. This is the license plate from Steady
Yep.
Ed's Jeep.
That's
Do it with
too
a
funny.
Frisbee. This golfers do it with a Frisbee. So he drove across the country with this, and eventually, anybody can see this license plate also at the IDGC.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really well, I don't know if that's something that they're going to want to continue to do, but I'm sure there's going to be a lot more things that are added to that particular museum that are relics from the days that brought us here.
Well, that's where they have all the Hall of Fame stuff at that place also.
Yeah, so important repository of disc golf culture, disc golf history. We've gotten to that point now where we have a museum and the Hall of Fame and you know exhibits, and people can take their bored kids to come check out what grandma and grandpa used to have fun with. Well, listen, Patty, you are a true legend. We're really amazed at the legacy that you've created and what you passed on to disc golfers worldwide and around the corner. What you've done for Little 5 Points and what you've done around the world in general. So, taking all this time to stop with us and tell us all these stories as well. Thank you. We can't thank you enough.
Well, you've certainly opened my eyes and my heart to what John and I were able to accomplish, and I really appreciate knowing what I know now. Thank you.
Well, that's one thing. Paul's really good at doing a deep dive, and he finds a lot of this information that well, I don't even. He used to include the intro on the with the script, and I stopped reading it, and then I told him that because I just started watching your face whenever you hear that intro that he gets, and you know others before you, and it's just it's a lot of fun to see your reaction because I can tell when he's like, wait, where the hell did you find that? What rock did you pull that out from under? And Paul has found a few things under a couple of rocks.
Well, it's been a delight meeting the two of you. And if y'all ever get down in Atlanta, please give us a call and come on by.
Absolutely.
All right. That sounds great.
Well, rock on, my friends.
In the meantime, you keep doing what you do, spread the light, spread the love, and keep doing all the wonderful things. And tell John we'd love to have him on the show, please.
Well, I'll tell him.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Bye.
All right, Patty. Have a good one. Take care.
Thank you guys.